What up, YouTube? What's going on? Shout out to my new subscribers. I really appreciate y'all for giving me the chance and opportunity. We getting back into our book club reading. We are on 48 Laws of Power. We on Law 17. I think I'm gonna like this chapter. Keep others suspended in terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Humans are creatures of habit with an insatiable need to see familiarity in other people's actions. Your predictability gives them a sense of control. Turn the tables. Be deliberately unpredictable. Behavior that seems to have no consistency or purpose would keep them off balance, and they will wear themselves out trying to explain your moves. Taken to extreme, this strategy can intimidate and terrorize. Okay. In May of 1972, chess champion Boris Spassky anxiously awaited his rival Bobby Fischer in Iceland. Oh, I remember Bobby Fischer. I wonder if he is still alive. Even though in 1972, how old was I? 6? Yeah, I was 6. The two men had scheduled to meet for the World Championship of Chess, but Fischer had not arrived on time and the match was on hold. Fischer had problems with the size of the prize money, problem with the way the money was to be distributed, problems with the logistics of holding the match in Iceland. He might back out at any moment. Spassky tried to be patient. His Russian bosses felt that Fischer was humiliating him and told him to walk away, but Spassky wanted this match. He knew he could destroy Fischer and nothing was going to spoil the greatest victory of his career. So it seems that all our work may come to nothing, Spassky told a comrade. But what can we do? It is Bobby's move. If he comes, we play. He does not come, we do not play. A man who is willing to commit suicide has the initiative. Fischer finally arrived, but the problems and the threat of cancellation continued. He disliked the hall where the match was to be fought. He criticized the lighting. He complained about the noise of the cameras. He even hated the chairs in which he and Spassky were to sit. Now, the Soviet Union took the initiative and threatened to withdraw their man. The bluff apparently worked. After all the weeks of waiting, the endless and infuriating negotiation, Fischer agreed to play. Everyone was relieved, no one more than Spassky. But on the day of the official instructions, Fischer arrived very late, and on the day when the match of the century was to begin, he was late again. This time, however, the consequences would be dire. If he showed up too late, he would forfeit the first game. What was going on? Was he playing some sort of mind game? Or was Bobby Fischer perhaps afraid of Boris Spassky? It seemed to no assembled grandmasters and to Spassky that this young kid from Brooklyn had a terrible case of the jitters. At 5:09, Fischer showed up exactly 1 minute before the match was to be canceled. Damn. The first game of chess tournament is critical since it sets the tone for the months to come. It is often a slow and quiet struggle with the two players preparing themselves for war and trying to read each other's strategies. This game was different. Fischer made a terrible move early on, and perhaps the worst of his career. And when Spassky had him on the ropes, he seemed to give up. Yet Spassky knew that Fischer never gave up. Even when facing checkmate, he fought to the bitter end, wearing the opponent down. This time, though, he seemed resigned. Then suddenly he broke out a bold move that put the room in a buzz. The move shocked Spassky, but he recovered and managed to win the game. But no one could figure out what Fischer was up to. Had he lost deliberately, or was he rattled, unsettled, even as some thought insane? After his defeat in the first game, Fischer complained all the more loudly about the room, the cameras, and everything else. He also failed to show up on time for the second game. This time the organizer had enough. He was given a forfeit. Now he was down to 2-1, a position which no one had ever come back to win a chess championship. Fisher was clearly unhinged. Yet in the third game, as all who witnessed it remember, he had a ferocious look in his eye, a look that clearly bothered Spassky. And despite the hole he had dug for himself, he seemed supremely confident. He did make what appeared to be another blunder, as he had in the first game, but his cocky air made Spassky smell a trap. Yet despite the Russian's suspicions, he could not figure out the trap, and before he knew it, Fisher had checkmated him. In fact, Fisher's unorthodox tactics had completely unnerved his opponent. At the end of the game, Fisher leaped up and rushed out, yelling to his confederates as he smashed a fist in his palm, "I'm crushing him with brutal force." In the next games, Fisher put moves that no one had seen from him before, moves that were not his style. Now Spassky started to make blunders. After losing the 6th game, he started to cry. One grandmaster said after this, Spassky got to ask himself if it's safe to go back to Russia. Damn, he whooped his ass like that. After the 8th game, Spassky decided he knew what was happening. Bobby Fischer had been hypnotizing him. He decided not to look Fischer in the eye. He lost anyway. After the 14th game, he called a staff conference and announced an attempt was being made to control my mind. He wondered whether the orange juice they drink at the chess table could have been drugged. Maybe chemicals were being blown into the air. Finally, Spassky went public, accusing the Fischer team of putting something in the chairs that was altering Spassky's mind. The KGB went on alert. Boris Spassky was embarrassed in the Soviet Union. Excuse me. The chairs were taken apart and x-rayed. A chemist found nothing unusual in them. Oh, shoot. Oh. Okay. The only things anyone found anywhere, in fact, were 2 dead flies in a lighting fixture. Spassky began to complain of hallucinations. He tried to keep playing, but his mind was unraveling. He could not go on. On September 2nd, he resigned. Although still relatively young, he never recovered from this defeat. In previous games between Fischer and Spassky, Fischer had not fared well. Spassky had uncanny ability to read his opponent's strategy and use it against him. Adaptability and patience, he could build attacks that would defeat not in 7 moves, but in 70. He defeated Fischer every time they played because he saw much further ahead and because he had a brilliant psychologist who never lost control. One master said he doesn't just look for the best move, he looks for the move that would disturb the man he was playing. Fischer finally understood that this was one of the keys to Spassky's success. He played on your predictability, defeated you at your own game. Everything Fischer did for the championship match was an attempt to put the initiative on his side and keep Spassky off balance. Clearly, the endless waiting had an effect on Spassky's psyche. Most powerful of all were Fischer's deliberate blunders and his appearance of having no clear strategy. In fact, he was doing everything he could to scramble his old patterns, even if it meant losing the first match and forfeiting the second. Damn, that's powerful. Damn, that's powerful. Spassky was known for his sang-froid and level-headedness, but for the first time in his life, he could not figure out his opponent. He slowly melted down, and at the end, he was the one who seemed insane. Chess contains the consecrated essence of life. First, because to win, you have to be supremely patient and far-seeing. And second, because the game is built on patterns, while sequences of moves that have been played before and will be played again with slight alterations in any one match. Your opponent analyzes the patterns you are playing and uses them to try to foresee your moves. Allowing him nothing predictable to base his strategy on gives you a big advantage. In chess, as in life, when people cannot figure out what you're doing, they are kept in a state of terror, waiting, uncertain, confused. Wow, that is... Oh, we can finish this. Okay. Nothing is more terrifying than sudden and unpredictable. That is why we are so frightened by earthquakes and tornadoes. We do not know when they will strike. After one has occurred, we wait in terror for the next one. To lesser degree, this is the effort that unpredictable human behavior has on us. Animals behave in set patterns, which is why we are able to hunt and kill them. Only man has the capacity to alter his behavior, to improvise and overcome the weight of routine and habit. Yet most men do not realize this power. They prefer the comforts of routine or giving in to the animal nature that has them repeating the same compulsive actions time and time again. They do this because it requires no effort and because they mistakenly believe that if they do not unsettle others, they will be left alone. Understood, a person of power instills a kind of fear by deliberately unsettling those around him to keep the initiative on his side. You sometimes need to strike without warning to make others tremble when they least expect it. It is a device that the powerful have used for centuries. Filippo Marie, the last of the Dukes of Milan in the 15th century, consciously did the opposite of what everyone expected of him. For instance, he might suddenly shower a courier with attention, and then, once the man has come to expect a promotion to higher office, would suddenly start treating him with disdain. Confused, the man might leave the court, when the Duke would suddenly recall him and start treating him well again. Doubly confused, the courier would wonder whether his assumption that he would be promoted that became obvious and offensive to the Duke, and would start to behave as if he no longer expected such honor. The Duke would rebuke him for the lack of ambition and would send him away. The secret of dealing with Filippo was simple. Do not presume to know what he wants. Do not try to guess what will please him. Never inject your will. Just surrender to his will. Then wait to see what happens. Amidst the confusion, uncertainty is created. The Duke rules supreme, unchallenged and at peace. Unpredictability is most often the tactic of the master, but the underdog too can use it to great effect. If you find yourself outnumbered or cornered, throw in a series of unpredictable moves. Your enemies will be so confused that they will pull back or make a tactical blunder. This law applies not only to war, but to everyday situations. People are always trying to read the motives behind your actions and to use your predictability against you. Throw in a completely inexplainable move and you put them on a defensive because they do not understand you. They are unnerved, and in such a state, you can easily intimidate them. Picasso once remarked, the best calculation is the absence of calculation. Once you have attained a certain level of recognition, others generally figure that when you do something, it's for an intelligent reason. So it's really foolish to plot out your moves too carefully in advance. You're better off acting capriciously. Sometimes predictability can work in your favor. By creating a pattern for people to be familiar and comfortable with, you can lull them to sleep. They have prepared everything according to their preconceived notions about you. You can use this in several ways. First, it sets up a smoke screen, a comfortable front behind which you carry on deceptive actions. Second, it allows you, on rare occasions, to do something completely against the pattern, unsettling your opponent so deeply he will fall to the ground without even being pushed. Unpredictability can work against you sometimes, especially if you are in a subordinate position. There are times when it's better to let people feel comfortable and settled around you than to disturb them. Too much unpredictability would be seen as a sign of indecisiveness or even of some more serious psychic problem. Patterns are powerful and you can terrify people by disrupting them. Such power should only be used judiciously. Damn, that was a good short chapter. Let me see something. Hold on 1 second. So what we basically learned is because people crave predictability and a sense of control, you can throw others off balance and even terrify them by cultivating an air of unpredictability, while your opponents are stressing themselves out trying to explain and anticipate what your next moves are. You can achieve your objectives unnoticed. We want other people to be predictable, and we ourselves follow patterns and routines out of laziness, a preference for comfort, or a desire to keep the peace. Animals follow patterns as well, which allows us to hunt them. But unpredictability is an important tool to crush your enemy by suddenly doing something no one expected you to create fear and confusion, which keeps others off balance, allowing room for you to maneuver. It may also prompt them to make more mistakes. You can use this tactic effectively even if you are the underdog. That right there is a good law. That's law 17. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment.